He didn't just check her passport, he torched it. Right there at the counter, sparks flying as a U.S. officer set fire to the only document that proved her identity. Passengers froze, some too stunned to breathe, others raising their phones as the burgundy booklet crumbled into black ash. The officer thought he was proving his power. Instead, he was signing his own career's death warrant. Because the woman he targeted wasn't powerless. She was married to the nation's top law enforcer. Angela Martinez had walked through dozens of airports in her life. But tonight at Los Angeles International, something felt different. The air was heavy, humming with fluorescent lights that flickered like interrogation lamps. Her leather satchel hung from her shoulder, her jeans rumpled from a day of travel, and her eyes tired but steady. She approached the customs checkpoint with the same quiet authority she once carried into war zones. Behind the counter stood Officer Dale Thompson, his jaw tight, his eyes hunting for weakness. He had the look of a man searching for someone to dominate. Angela offered her passport and travel form without a word. He snatched them as if ownership of her identity had just passed into his hands. "Business in Switzerland?" he asked, his tone already skeptical. "Yes," she replied evenly. "I was speaking at an international summit." Her calm irritated him. Thompson flipped through the pages with unnecessary slowness, pausing at each stamp as though hunting for invisible crimes. To him, her poise wasn't confidence, it was defiance. And defiance demanded punishment. "These dates don't line up," he muttered, though the numbers were perfectly clear. "This photo looks off. How do I know you're really Angela Martinez?" Her jaw tightened. She had interviewed cartel leaders and corrupt presidents, and yet being dismissed by a bitter officer with a badge cut deeper than most insults. Still, she kept her tone professional. "My passport was issued last year. Everything is in order, Officer Thompson." But Thompson wasn't interested in order. He was interested in humiliation. "Step aside," he said sharply. "Additional screening." The crowd shifted uncomfortably as Angela was escorted to a small, windowless room. Officer Williams, Thompson's partner, stood uneasily near the door. Even he seemed to know this was going too far. Thompson, however, was enjoying himself. He laid out Angela's belongings like evidence: laptop, notepad, credit cards, press credentials. Then, with a cruel smile, he pulled out a wedding photo. "Nice dress," he sneered, holding up the picture. "Husband looks rich. Some kind of lawyer?" Angela kept her expression calm. "He works in government." Thompson chuckled darkly. "Figures. Probably got you this fancy passport through some program. Affirmative action, right? Diversity perks." The words hit like acid, but she swallowed her anger. She knew men like him thrived on provocation. She had no intention of feeding his ego. The crowd outside pressed closer to the glass window. Phones lifted, recording the scene. What began as routine screening was morphing into public theater. And then, Thompson made his fatal choice. He flicked open a lighter. The small flame danced as he held her passport high. "You bring fake documents into my country," he declared loudly. "They don't leave intact." Angela's voice sharpened, the steel of decades in journalism cutting through. "That passport is legitimate. Destroying it is a federal crime." But Thompson leaned closer, his smirk widening. "Watch me." The flame kissed the corner of the burgundy cover. In seconds, the paper curled, blackened, and crumbled. A hush fell over the travelers watching from outside, the silence broken only by the crackle of burning pages. Angela did not beg. She did not plead. She simply stared, imprinting every detail of his face into her memory. Thompson mistook her silence for defeat. He had no idea his downfall was already on its way. The door burst open. Two men in dark suits stormed inside, badges flashing with the unmistakable seal of federal authority. "Officer Thompson," one barked, "step away from Mrs. Martinez immediately." Thompson froze, lighter still in hand. The ashes of Angela's passport scattered across the floor. Confusion flickered across his face. Mrs. Martinez? Who the hell was this woman? The agents turned to Angela with deference. Ma'am, your transportation is waiting. Thompson stammered. This is my jurisdiction. The agent's glare cut him short. Not anymore. As Angela walked out between the agents, travelers pressed against the glass, phones capturing every second. What they had witnessed was no longer just airport drama. It was a scandal, and it was about to explode nationwide. By morning, Angela's image, calm, composed, watching her passport burn, was everywhere. AG's wife, humiliated at LAX, blared across screens. Social media erupted with fury. Hashtags trended, protests ignited, and stories poured in from countless travelers who had endured similar abuses without federal agents arriving to protect them. Inside the supervisor's office, Thompson's world collapsed. FBI agents flanked his superior, who held an email on screen. Angela Martinez, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, senior correspondent for the Washington Post, and wife of Attorney General David Martinez. The words landed like hammers. Thompson had committed a crime against the spouse of the nation's top law enforcer. Within hours, his badge, weapon, and career were stripped away. His name would soon be infamous, not for valor, but for disgrace. But Angela wasn't focused on revenge. While the nation clamored for Thompson's head, she thought bigger. Revenge is easy, she told her husband. But revenge doesn't change the machine that makes men like him. She went to work. Her article, The Badge and the Bias, exposed systemic discrimination in airport security. She gathered testimonies. A professor detained for speaking Spanish. A businessman questioned for buying first-class tickets. A young engineer accused of terrorism for carrying technical equipment. Her reporting revealed a pattern. Prejudice disguised as protection. And with her platform and the public's outrage, she demanded reform. Months later, Angela testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Calm, precise, unflinching, she described not just what happened to her, but what happens to countless others without powerful connections. She called for independent oversight, bias training, and accountability at every airport checkpoint. The pressure was unstoppable. The Airport Accountability Act passed into law within 6 months. Airports across the country introduced new oversight boards, strict penalties for misconduct, and protections for travelers. Angela never sought headlines for herself, but her burned passport had become a national symbol. From its ashes rose a law that safeguarded millions. Thompson faded into obscurity, his name remembered only as a cautionary tale. Angela, meanwhile, returned to her work, exposing corruption, protecting the powerless, and reminding America that real change doesn't come from revenge, it comes from reform. Her passport had been destroyed, but her dignity, and the dignity of every traveler after her, had been secured. Like, share, comment, and subscribe for more bold stories where injustice falls and justice wins.